The first time Elena saw Adrian Vale, she thought he was just another quiet billionaire who preferred shadows over spotlights. The kind of man who slipped into charity galas late, stood near the back, and spoke only when spoken to. No entourage, no loud laughter, no thirst for attention. Just calm eyes, controlled movements, and a presence that made people unconsciously lower their voices. If someone had told her that night that Adrian Vale was living a secret life so dangerous it could erase everything she thought she knew about him, she would have laughed, because nothing about him looked dangerous. That was the illusion, and illusions are what billionaires do best. The night they met, rain pressed gently against the glass walls of the Aurelius Foundation Hall. The city glowed below like a living circuit board, busy, electric, unaware. Elena was there for one reason only: funding. Her tech startup was bleeding cash. One more failed pitch, and it would be over. Years of work, gone. She had practiced her presentation for weeks, timed her words, measured her confidence. But when Adrian Vale turned toward her, everything she rehearsed disappeared. Not because he was intimidating, because he was unreadable. He listened without interrupting, didn't nod, didn't frown, just watched her, like he wasn't evaluating the business, but her. When she finished, silence stretched between them, long enough to make her heart pound. Then he smiled, slightly. "Your numbers are optimistic," he said calmly, "but your instincts aren't." She blinked. "That's good?" "It's rare," he replied. "I'll invest." Just like that. No negotiation, no performance. And as he walked away, Elena felt something unfamiliar twist in her chest. Relief, mixed with curiosity. She didn't know it then, but that moment sealed her fate. Because Adrian Vale didn't invest in companies, he invested in people. And people always came with secrets. Over the next few months, Adrian became a constant presence in her life. Not aggressively, not romantically, just there. He sent thoughtful emails at odd hours, asked questions no investor ever asked, showed up unexpectedly when decisions mattered most, but never stayed long, always leaving before conversations deepened, always vanishing just as Elena felt close to understanding him. The press painted him as a recluse billionaire, a tech genius who sold his first company at 26 and vanished from public life. No scandals, no drama, no interviews. A perfect mystery. But Elena started noticing the cracks. The first time was subtle. They were having dinner at a quiet restaurant overlooking the river. The waiter accidentally dropped a tray behind them. The sharp crash echoed. Elena flinched. Adrian didn't. Instead, his posture changed instantly. Back straight, eyes scanning exits, hand moving, not visibly, but deliberately toward his jacket. Then, just as quickly, he relaxed, smiled, apologized for being distracted. Elena tried to shake the unease, but her instincts whispered. This man had been trained to react. The second crack came weeks later. She arrived early at his private office one morning, unannounced, to drop off revised projections. His assistant hesitated. "That won't be necessary," she said quickly. "He's in a meeting." But Elena could hear voices inside. Low, urgent, not business. And when Adrian finally emerged, his knuckles were bruised. He noticed her staring, covered it smoothly. "Gym accident." Elena nodded, but something in his eyes warned her not to ask questions she wasn't ready to hear. The truth began to surface the night she followed him, not intentionally, not at first. They had attended a closed-door economic summit overseas. When it ended, Adrian declined the private jet waiting for him. "I'll take a separate car," he said. Elena, curious and slightly unsettled, watched him disappear into a different vehicle. Minutes later, something compelled her to act. She got into a taxi. "Follow that car," she said. The driver hesitated, then shrugged. The city blurred past them, lights, turns, narrow streets. Adrian's car stopped at a building that didn't belong in any billionaire's itinerary. Old concrete, no signage, heavy security. Men checked IDs at the door. Adrian exited. No hesitation, no fear. He nodded once to the guards. They let him through. Elena's heart hammered. This wasn't a secret club. This was a facility, and whatever happened inside was not meant for public eyes. She didn't follow him in. She didn't need to, because from that moment on, she knew Adrian Vale wasn't just hiding privacy. He was hiding another life. The confrontation came days later. Not dramatic, not explosive. Quiet. Dangerously quiet. They stood in his penthouse as dusk bled into night. City lights flickered on below them like witnesses. Elena placed a file on the table. Photos, records, names. She hadn't dug deep. She hadn't needed to. Just enough to confirm her fears. "Who are you?" she asked softly. Adrian didn't look surprised. He looked tired. For the first time since she met him, the mask slipped. "I was hoping you'd never ask," he said. Silence stretched. Then he exhaled. "I fund companies, but I also dismantle them." Elena's breath caught. "Illegal ones," he clarified. "Cartels, human trafficking networks, financial syndicates that ruin countries from the inside." She shook her head slowly. "This isn't possible. I built my first fortune by understanding systems. The second, by breaking them." He walked to the window. "I work with people you'll never see. Governments that don't exist on paper. Operations that disappear when they succeed." Elena felt her world tilt. "And the bruises?" she whispered. Adrian turned. "Sometimes," he said quietly, "I'm not just the financier." Pause. Everything Elena believed shattered in that moment. The man she trusted, admired, was living a double life that could get them both killed. And the worst part, he wasn't asking for forgiveness. He was asking for distance. "You should walk away," he said. "Tonight." She stared at him. "And if I don't?" A long pause. "Then you stop being a collateral," Adrian replied, "and start being a liability." The words weren't cruel. They were protective. That's what terrified her most, because Adrian Vale didn't scare easily, and yet he was afraid for her. Pause. Elena didn't leave, and that decision changed everything. From that night on, nothing was accidental. Every meeting, monitored. Every message, encrypted. Every shadow, suspicious. She learned the cost of truth. Strange cars followed her. Emails vanished. Friends asked questions that weren't theirs to ask. And Adrian, he became distant, colder. Not because he stopped caring, but because caring made her vulnerable. Until the night everything collapsed. A deal went wrong. A network didn't fall quietly, and Adrian disappeared. No calls, no messages, no trace. For 72 hours, Elena lived in silence thick with dread. Then a single message arrived, one sentence. "If they come for me, they'll come for you." Her phone rang immediately after. Unknown number. She answered and heard a voice she'd never forget. "You're holding something that belongs to us," the voice said calmly. "Bring it, or we erase him." The line went dead. Pause. Elena stood alone in her apartment, the weight of the truth crushing her. The billionaire she thought she knew was gone. In his place, a man hunted by forces far bigger than wealth. And now, so was she. Because loving a man with a secret life doesn't just cost your peace, sometimes it costs everything. Long pause, and that was only the beginning. The voice stayed with Elena long after the call ended. Calm, measured, certain. The kind of voice that didn't threaten because it didn't need to. She stood frozen in the middle of her apartment, phone still pressed to her ear, city noise leaking through the windows like nothing had changed. And everything had. They wanted something Adrian had taken or hidden or become, and somehow Elena was now the leverage. She didn't cry, didn't scream, didn't panic. She did the one thing Adrian had unknowingly taught her to do. She thought 3 steps ahead. Slowly, she walked to her laptop. No internet searches, no frantic messages, just one secure drive Adrian had once insisted she keep for emergencies. At the time, she thought it was about data protection. Now, she knew better. Her fingers trembled as she plugged it in. A single folder opened. Inside were files she had never seen before. Coordinates, code names, financial ledgers that didn't balance on purpose. In a short video file labeled only with today's date. She clicked it. Adrian appeared on the screen, seated in a dimly lit room. His face was bruised, one eye slightly swollen, but his voice was steady. "If you're watching this," he said quietly, "then they've already moved." Elena's breath caught. "I didn't want you in this," Adrian continued, "but I prepared you anyway." A pause. "They won't kill me yet. I'm more valuable alive. You are the variable." He leaned forward. "They believe you're innocent. Keep it that way." Another pause, longer this time. "In this drive is everything they're looking for, and everything they don't know exists." Elena whispered, "Adrian." He said, "You have 2 choices. Give it to them, and I disappear forever." Her chest tightened. "Or," he continued softly, "trust me one last time and finish what I started." The video ended. Silence filled the room. Elena stared at the dark screen, heart pounding. This wasn't just about saving Adrian anymore. Whatever he had uncovered was big enough to shake people who never appeared on any list, and they were already watching her. She felt it when the elevator downstairs stopped on her floor, even though she hadn't ordered it. Pause. Elena didn't pack a bag. She didn't erase her tracks. She did the opposite. She went public. The next morning, Elena attended a high-profile tech forum, one that cameras loved and journalists couldn't resist. She smiled, shook hands, talked about innovation and growth, and every word was bait, because predators always watched where the light was brightest. By nightfall, the message came, an address, a time, no instructions, just expectation. The place was a private dock outside the city. Fog rolled low over the water, swallowing sound and distance. Elena arrived alone. No phone, no security, only the drive, hidden where no one would think to look. A figure stepped out from the shadows, then another, then 5 more. Victor Kane emerged last. Tall, impeccable, dangerously calm. "You're braver than I expected," he said, "or more foolish." Elena met his gaze. "Where is Adrian?" Victor smiled. Still breathing, he said. For now. He extended his hand. The drive. Elena didn't move. You don't really want it, she said quietly. You want what's inside. Victor's eyes narrowed slightly. That depends, he replied, on whether you understand what you're holding. She stepped closer. I understand this, she said. You built a system so complex, even you lost control of it, and Adrian didn't steal your money. Victor tilted his head. He exposed your partners. Silence fell. For the first time, Victor Kane's smile faded. Elena continued, voice steady. Governance, banks, charities, all feeding the same machine. Adrian mapped it, not to sell it, but to collapse it. Victor laughed softly. You think you're the first to threaten me with truth. No, Elena said, but I might be the first who already released it. The air changed. Victor's gaze sharpened. What did you do? Elena exhaled slowly. I scheduled it, she said. Dead drops, international audits, independent servers. If I don't check in every 12 hours... She let the sentence hang. Victor studied her for a long moment. Then he smiled again. This time, it was real. Adrian chose well, he said quietly. A pause. Take her, he ordered. Hands grabbed Elena's arms. She didn't resist, because this was the plan. Minutes later, she was blindfolded and driven through a maze of turns she deliberately memorized by timing. When the blindfold came off, she saw Adrian, chained, bruised, alive. Their eyes met. No words. None were needed. Victor stood between them. Here's what's going to happen, he said calmly. You walk away, he nodded at Elena, and forget he exists. He turned to Adrian. And you, he said, disappear into one of my prisons where even names die. Elena stepped forward. No, she said. Victor raised an eyebrow. You don't negotiate here. She met his gaze. I'm not negotiating. I'm ending this. She looked at Adrian. He gave the smallest nod. That was the signal. The lights went out. Not darkness, chaos. Alarms screamed, doors slammed, shouts echoed. The floor shook as explosions detonated far outside, not lethal, but strategic. Victor spun. What did you do? He barked. Elena smiled for the first time in days. I trusted him, she said. The doors burst open. Men in unmarked gear flooded the room. Not police, not military. Something quieter, more final. As Victor was restrained, his eyes locked on Elena. You think this ends? He hissed. Elena leaned close. No, she whispered. It spreads. Hours later, dawn broke over the city. Adrian stood beside Elena on a rooftop, wrapped in a borrowed coat, watching the sun rise, like a promise neither of them trusted yet. It's not over, he said softly. She nodded. I know. He looked at her. I never wanted this life for you. Elena met his gaze. You didn't choose it for me, she said. I chose it when I stayed. A long pause. Below them, the world kept moving, unaware of how close it had come to collapsing under its own secrets. Adrian exhaled. My secret life cost me everything, he said quietly. Except you. Elena took his hand. And it gave me the truth, she replied, even if it almost destroyed us. They stood there in silence as sirens faded in the distance. Because some love stories don't end with safety, they end with survival. And some billionaires aren't defined by how much they own, but by what they're willing to burn to protect the truth. The silence after the raid felt heavier than the chaos that came before it. Adrian and Elena were moved before sunrise. No explanations, no thank yous, no promises. Just a quiet transfer into separate vehicles, in a single sentence from a man who never gave his name. You don't exist to us anymore. Keep it that way. By the time the city fully woke up, Adrian Vale was officially dead. News outlets reported a tragic accident overseas, a private jet malfunction. No survivors, no remains. The world mourned for exactly 12 hours. Then it moved on. Elena watched the headlines from a safe house with blank white walls and windows that didn't open. She expected relief. Instead, she felt hollow. Because when you survive something that should have killed you, normal life feels unreal. Adrian sat across from her, different now. No tailored suits, no billionaire polish, just a man stripped down to his core. I can't go back, he said quietly. Elena nodded. I know. They'll keep hunting, he continued. Not loudly, not publicly, but patiently. She studied his face. And you? A pause. I'll keep running, he said. That's the cost. The words hung between them. Then Elena spoke. Not alone. Adrian looked up sharply. No, he said. This isn't your war. She leaned forward. It became my war the moment they used you to threaten me. Another pause. This time, Adrian didn't argue, because deep down, he knew she was right. They disappeared together. Different names, different cities, different rhythms. Elena sold her company quietly. The buyer never met her in person. The money appeared, clean and untraceable. They lived small. Too small for two people who once stood at the center of power. And for a while, it worked. Until the message arrived. No sender. No threat. Just 3 words. Still watching you. Elena felt it before she even showed Adrian. The tension. The shift in air. Victor Kane was gone. But the system he built wasn't. In systems, hate loose ends. Adrian stared at the message for a long time. I was wrong, he said finally. About what? About thinking exposure was enough. Cutting the head off a monster doesn't kill it. Elena's voice was calm. Then we don't cut heads, she said. We drain blood. That was the moment everything changed. They stopped hiding. Quietly, carefully. Elena rebuilt. Not a startup, but a network. Analysts who didn't know each other, journalists who followed money instead of rumors, engineers who believed systems should protect people, not trap them. Adrian funded it, anonymously. Not with billions, with precision. They didn't leak scandals. They released patterns, and patterns are impossible to deny. Shell companies collapsed, charities dissolved overnight, officials resigned without explanation. No headlines connected the dots, but those who mattered understood. Then one night, Adrian didn't come home. No call, no message, just absence. Elena waited. An hour. 2. By morning, she knew. They had finally made their move. The call came at noon. Different voice this time. Older. Colder. You were warned, the man said. He's a problem we should have buried earlier. Elena closed her eyes. Where is he? A pause. Doesn't matter, the voice replied. What matters is what you do next. They wanted a trade, not money, not data. Silence. They wanted Elena to shut everything down, erase the network, disappear for good. She had 24 hours. Elena didn't cry. She didn't beg. She opened her laptop, and she did the unthinkable. She went live. Not publicly, strategically.
A timed global release, records, names, connections, locked behind a simple trigger. If she didn't manually stop it, everything would drop. No filters, no negotiations. She sent one message. I can't save him by surrendering, but I can make sure he didn't suffer for nothing. Hours passed. Then, minutes.
At the final minute, her screen flickered. A new message appeared. A location, and one sentence. You win, this time. Adrian was left at a hospital entrance with no identification and a single note in his pocket. Debt settled. When Elena reached him, he was weak but alive. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Weeks later, they vanished again. This time, for good. No networks, no missions, no secrets left to chase. Just two people who had seen behind the curtain and chose to walk away. Years later, a young journalist would stumble across fragments of a forgotten investigation, names that didn't exist anymore, accounts that led nowhere, a billionaire who died twice. The story would never be proven, but sometimes, late at night, Elena would stand by a quiet window watching the world turn, and Adrian would stand beside her, alive, free, knowing one truth most people never learn. The most dangerous secret a billionaire can have is not how much power he owns, it's what happens when he decides to destroy it. If you enjoyed this story, like, comment, share, and subscribe to Golden Billionaire Stories, where every tale drips with luxury, power, and passion. Because here, love always comes with a price.